Well, hello, and welcome back to another podcast episode with Brittney Bundles. You are listening to the Brittney Bundles podcast, where we empower through entrepreneurship. And today I'd like to give you all a brief disclosure. I am under the weather, so if my voice sounds different or raspy, I do apologize. I still want to get this message out because it is still needed. I still want to send empowerment, encouragement, inspiration, and help to stimulate motivation. Now, I'm going to be touching on 5 ways today that we can help stimulate our motivation. And this is so important because as entrepreneurs, I find it that I work better when I am motivated. I find that a lot of people that I work with, as far as different business owners that I assist and different owners that assist me with different things, pretty much just having that community of resources where if, my back needs scratched, you scratch mine. And if yours needs scratched, I scratch yours. I found that even with people that I do consultations with, people that are in different places of their business, whether they are brand new or whether they have been in business for longer than I've been alive, all talk about, when this question is asked, what keeps them going, they talk about their why and they talk about staying motivated. And so I once got the question, is it possible to run your business if you're not motivated? And that answer to me is yes. There have been times that I have not been motivated and I have continued to run my business. There have been times that I have not been motivated and I have continued to get up and go to work. But I can tell you that I do my best when I am motivated. I do my best when I am centered. I do my best when I am focused. And so I'm going to go over 5 ways that can help stimulate motivation. If you found yourself in an area of demotivation, if you found yourself feeling not encouraged or inspired, if you found yourself or find yourself trying to grasp for different, different imaginary strings, hoping that you are going to be able to pull yourself out of whatever you're in and kind of stimulate that creativity and push that motivation again, this is going to be the right podcast for you. If you have not found yourself losing motivation, this is still a good podcast for you because, hey, you never know what will happen in the future. And because we're human, a lot of times our feelings and our vibes and our distractions and our focuses and our overall state of being changes. It just changes sometimes. And so if we can all work together on ways to stimulate our motivation, to keep the creativity alive, and to continue to build a resource community around what it is we're looking to do, I think that's going to be the most beneficial, or one of the most beneficial actions that we can all do to make sure that we're thriving forward and working together. So if you are interested in this podcast today, talking about stimulating motivation, please go ahead and share this episode, share it on social media, share it via text, share it via email, or go ahead and turn this podcast up when you are in the car with someone else that would enjoy listening to entrepreneurial motivation like this. So without further ado, we're going to get started with a new podcast episode today in just a few seconds. So get ready. We're back with another podcast episode on the Brittney Bundles podcast. All right. So we are back. So today, like I mentioned, I'm a little under the weather. So please bear with my voice. I've been trying to get it back. It's been like this for, I would say, like the past week now. And I am really, really missing my voice. So please bear with me. But my voice does not stop the show. So we're going to keep moving along, keep pushing through with the voice that I have today. So today I want to talk about 5 ways to help stimulate motivation. Now, we've touched on a little bit of some reasons why it's important to keep motivation. And I mentioned that I work better when I am motivated. I'm my best self when I am motivated and focused. And that's one of the reasons why I do want to provide tips on how to keep motivation there. Now, let's go ahead and define this. A lot of people, even me, in my younger days, I would confuse being happy with being motivated. And I do want to say this, being an entrepreneur for some years, not every day is going to be a happy day. And it may not even have anything to do with your business. I've mentioned this in some other podcast episodes. Although we try to keep personal and business separate, sometimes it is very difficult to do that because we're the same person. So if you're dealing with something personal, it may have an effect on how you're feeling. And if you go and do a task for your business, you can still get that task done very effectively and efficiently, but you may have certain feelings while you're doing them or doing that task and not really be your full self because of what you're dealing with in your personal life, and vice versa. You may be going through something in your business and really want to be excited at this party that you're at in your personal life, but because you're stuck on what's going on with your business, you still have some of those feelings at the party, and so you're not able to be your true self. You're not able to be your happy self. Let me say that, because you can still, you have so many different sides to you and so many different emotions. So even if you're not happy, it doesn't mean that you're not being yourself. It just means that you're not being your happy self at that point, which is okay. So some of those challenges definitely work themselves out the longer that you stay in business, the longer that you keep moving through, pushing through, because you learn how to separate some things. You learn how to leave some things on the table and pick them back up, which I have definitely learned to do. Let's go over the first tip. So the first tip in relation to stimulating motivation is centering yourself. So center yourself. That's what I do a lot of times when I am wanting to be motivated, when I am wanting to make sure that I am pushing through and that I'm putting my all into what I am doing. I want to be my best. I want to make sure that everything that I touch, I'm touching with my purpose, and I'm also touching with my passion, and that I stay motivated. So I center myself. I find what it is I'm wanting to do, and I speak and think positive thoughts. And I also remember my why. So in order for me to stay motivated, I have to remember why I'm doing something. I never want to do something just for the sake of doing it. I never want to get into a robotic mode where I'm just doing different actions and I really don't have a reason as to why I'm doing them. Or my reason is only to get paid, or my reason is only to make someone else happy. I want to make sure that I am being fulfilled and that I'm living in my purpose. So I center myself and I speak and think positive thoughts. Our mentality and our thoughts and the way that we view ourselves and speak to ourselves, even internally. Because there are some times that I may speak to myself and say, okay, Brittney, you got this, out loud. And there may be some other times where I talk to myself internally. And a lot of times the way that we talk to ourselves internally has a huge impact on how we view ourselves. Words are so powerful, and so are thoughts. So it's really important to speak and think positive thoughts, even though some things may not be going as you plan in your life, even though some things may not be going as you plan in your business, even though some things may not be sticking together as well as you want them to stick together. There's still hope, and there's still a way out. And I think sometimes we forget that as being human. We forget that there's always a way out. Now, it may not be the way that we initially planned, or it may not be the route that we wanted to go down, but there is always there's always an option and room for redemption. So I'm remembering my why. Why am I doing this? Why did I even start this podcast? Well, I started so that I would be able to reach many entrepreneurs out there, even people that are on the brink of considering jumping into entrepreneurship, and share what it is I've gone through and use my life as a testimony. That is so powerful. There are so many people, there's enough people, in my this is just my opinion, that have lived life and acted as if they knew everything. Like they just had everything together from the moment they were born. And I find it more beneficial to be transparent and to allow yourself to be human. Things do go wrong. Things don't always happen how we plan. Businesses do fail sometimes. And again, I don't really consider anything a failure. And I say again, because I've mentioned this on so many different podcast episodes, as well as on my YouTube channel at Brittney Bundles. It's not a failure if you've learned something from it. I have learned how to capitalize quote unquote failures. I started a salon a few years ago now, and that did not turn out how I envisioned it turning out. And so I could have, just decided to have a mentality of defeat and, this didn't work and I failed and this and that. Or I could take the experience and learn from what I went through and share with others what it is I was able to overcome, what I went through, some different tips and tools, and also what I would do going forward. And so I was able to not only touch others, not only capitalize off of that experience, but I was also able to keep my motivation going and thriving and working my purpose because I was still remembering my why. I still remembered why I'm doing what I'm doing. The reason I opened my salon was to be able to put more jobs in the community. The reason I opened my salon was to be able to touch others. And so I wanted to still keep that why. I still want to be able to have jobs in the future for others. I am looking at possibly hiring an assistant. That's another way that I can put back out there and put, jobs back into the community. But I also wanted to make sure that I was helping as many people as I possibly could. And so the podcast, my YouTube, different communities that I'm in is another way that I can give back. So I'm remembering my why and it's keeping me motivated. So ask yourself, what is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? And if you don't have a reason that's beneficial or that's connected to your purpose or passion, you may want to reconsider, because I can tell you that it's very hard to stay motivated with something that you really don't want to do deep down, even if it is a good paycheck. It's really, really hard to stay motivated when you're doing something, again, that you really don't want to do. Now, the second point that I want to touch on is encouraging inspirational videos. So when I find myself losing motivation, one thing that I used to do and that I still do from time to time is I seek out encouraging inspirational videos. There are lots of TED Talks on YouTube. There are a lot of entrepreneurial stories. There's a lot of content in regards to encouragement, motivation, and inspiration right here on Anchor. If you're listening to the podcast on Anchor, there's other podcasts on Spotify. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. I mean, there's just so much information out there and so much tools and resources out there to help to stimulate the motivation. And the reason I'm saying stimulate your motivation is because you're the one that's in control of if you're going to move with your motivation or not. Others can help stimulate it, but ultimately we have to make a choice if we're going to be motivated or not. So encouraging inspirational videos, that's one of the reasons that I do like to create different videos on my YouTube channel and more podcast episodes, because I know that it helps me to stay encouraged and motivated when I hear other stories. It helps me stay encouraged and motivated when I hear others' reasons of why they haven't given up. And so I want to be that inspiration to others out there as well. So watch different videos if you are struggling with stimulating your motivation. Another thing that I want to touch on, which I kind of just mentioned, is different podcasts. Again, if you're listening on Anchor, there's tons of podcasts here on Anchor. There's tons of podcasts on Spotify, tons of podcasts on Apple Music, all related to inspiration, all related to motivation, all related to journey. So definitely check out different podcast episodes as well to help stimulate motivation. Now, the fourth tip that I have is Clubhouse. Now, I can admit I got away from the Clubhouse app months ago. When Clubhouse was first introduced to me, it was a really, really big hype. I remember that you had to wait for an invitation, and it was something that I was religiously listening to daily. Every day I would hop on the Clubhouse. And eventually I stopped going to Clubhouse or hopping on as often as I did. But recently I decided to go ahead and hop back on Clubhouse. And immediately I remembered why I enjoyed Clubhouse. There's just so many different people on that app that are talking live. So if you have a question, you're able to raise your hand. You're able to go on stage and talk to other people. You're able to continue to network and build your community of resources. And hearing different people talk business, if business is something that you want to do, a lot of times that will help stimulate your motivation too. I gave this analogy before on a different podcast episode, I believe, when I was saying, imagine yourself being a basketball player and you have been away from the court, you've been away from the ball, you've been around from any, and every athlete that you know for years, and you've been around people that like to paint instead of play basketball. Not saying that you're going to love painting, but there's a chance that you may not feel motivated to go out and pick up a ball because you're not around people that understand basketball. You're not around any courts. You don't have any balls next to you. You're not around the same people that you used to play with or people that even understand your drive for wanting to play basketball. And so it may be something that you kind of just push off and keep pushing off. And you may feel yourself less motivated to want to practice playing basketball until you meet a group of people that's talking about basketball. They're talking about the statistics. They're talking about the next game. They're talking about the shoes that they're going to get for the sport. They're talking about different places to go and play basketball. They're talking about their love and desire for basketball, how long they've done it. They're talking about new tricks and techniques that they've learned. And so now all of a sudden you feel yourself getting motivated again, and they call you to come play. Hey, come play ball with us. And so you may feel that excitement and that energy again, and the motivation that you have put to sleep sparking up again. So it's that same type of analogy when I'm speaking about Clubhouse. For a lot of people, they have become discouraged and unmotivated because they don't have anyone to talk their business ideas with. And although I'm not saying you have to have someone in your corner, you have to have someone to talk to in order to move forward with your business, because you don't. Sometimes you are going to be your only supporter. Sometimes you're going to be the only tool that you have to move yourself forward in an aspect of other people. I always have God to lean on. I always pray to God, but there are some times that I feel completely alone in business. And whether I am or whether I'm not, that's a valid feeling that I have, because it's something that I'm going through. There are people that can tell you that they're there for you, but you may not feel that way. Or you may feel that they're there only for waiting for a benefit that they can receive from it. So there's just so many different feelings. There's just so many different experiences and so many different ways that life is set up that everyone's entitled to how they feel. But we always want to keep moving forward despite whatever we're going through, because we still want to make sure that we're living in purpose and we still have work to do. So I'm not saying to ignore your feelings or to not allow yourself to rest or to heal emotionally, but I am wanting to give tools as to how we can push through. So Clubhouse is another way, and I don't believe that you need an invite at this point. I do believe that everyone can join Clubhouse. If you're someone that wants to speak on stage or speak to other entrepreneurs, that's an option to do so. If you're someone that would like to speak via DM, then you can also ask if you can DM someone. A lot of people's bios on Clubhouse has their email address or has their social media link. So Clubhouse is another way that can help stimulate your motivation amongst other entrepreneurs out there. Now, the last tip that I want to go over is building a community of like-minded people and resources. So I kind of just touched over that with the analogy of the basketball player and also with Clubhouse. Building a community of like-minded people is not only beneficial when you're wanting to have questions answered, but sometimes people can, like I said, encourage you and motivate you based on them being where you're currently at and seeing that they were able to get through. Now, not saying that you're going to get through the storm the same way, but just knowing that there's an option and possibility for you to get through is definitely inspiring. I remember when I took my first loss, that someone bought hair from me and then they went ahead and filed on their credit card that they did not place that order. And the card company took money out of my account, so I got a charge back, and they also was able to keep the hair. So I just felt completely defeated. And watching different videos and talking to different entrepreneurs that have gone through similar events helped me feel motivated and encouraged that I could get through it. And I used that experience yet again as a way to pre-warn, uplift, and share with other entrepreneurs what I went through. Now, ultimately, it's your choice what you decide to do, but I wanted to share what happened to me and how I was able to get through and how I moved forward. So a community of like-minded people and resources can definitely help stimulate motivation in the aspect of hearing from other entrepreneurs what they went through and how they were able to get out. Hearing from other entrepreneurs similar life events that they were able to overcome, so that you can know that it's possible. A lot of times we just have to remind ourselves that wherever we're at, whatever we're going through, others have been there and others have found their way out. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's possible. So those are 5 ways that can help stimulate motivation. Again, motivation is so important, especially in entrepreneurship. And I want everyone to keep that fire burning. And I want everyone to keep optimism, alive. And I want everyone to remain optimistic. I want everyone to be encouraged. I want everyone to be able to live and thrive in their purpose and in their passion. So if you do have any entrepreneurial tips or advice, or if you'd like to come on the podcast and share your entrepreneurial journey, shout out your business, sponsor an episode, support the podcast, please feel free to do so. Feel welcome. You can always email me for more information at btalks@yahoo.com. That is BTALKS@yahoo.com. If you do want to support the podcast, please download the Anchor app and click on support. You can donate a monthly amount to the podcast, and every amount helps. You can also follow me on social media. The social media sites for me include Instagram at Brittney_bundles. That is Brittney, BRITTNEY_bundles, BUNDLES. I'm on Facebook, Brittney Bundles, YouTube, Brittney Bundles. And until next time, I will talk to you all in the next podcast episode. Bye.